Microsoft perspective on the accessible cloud, Alex, and love to hear what you have to say both about your current perspective, what Microsoft is doing, and even your past responsibilities at SAP.
Sure. I won't speak for SAP now since I do not work there anymore. First, let me apologize for not being there in person. It is end of fiscal year for us, so I have some battles I have to fight here. And so that actually leads to my hard stop at 12 noon your time, so I apologize. So let's talk a little bit about what's changed about accessibility because of the cloud. People talk about cloud and how it changes accessibility. Let's talk about what's changed and also what's not changed so that we don't forget the fundamental. What's not changed is that in large part, accessibility is about UI, the user interface. It doesn't matter so much that, let's talk about cloud in the context of infrastructure as a service, for example. When you open up a file that's stored in the cloud or save a file that's stored in the cloud, it really hardly makes any difference whether it is stored locally on your local device or save it or open it from the cloud. The user experience is basically identical. So when you look at the framework of infrastructure as a service, it probably doesn't matter, change all the equation all that much. We're still talking about the interaction between the end user, the device, the operating systems, the applications, in which case it could be a browser, it doesn't have to be, the content, and in some cases, assistive technologies that especially made for particular users, make available to particular users. So that part does not change. Let's also take a look in the model of software as a service. Many people think of software as a service and a model as exclusively the domain of web browsers. So think of the web apps that are made available, or email that delivered through the cloud. Well, first, Microsoft do not think of software as a service as exclusive domain of the web. We have other ways to do it. But let's brush that aside for a moment. Let's look at the expectation, and I'm going to keep in mind that the audience here are of probably federal agencies and whatnot. So the expectation, as far as the federal agency is concerned, is clear. We have the current Section 508, if you're looking at exclusively on the web. And they're in the next version of Section 508, it will most certainly cite ISO IEC 40500, or probably more commonly known as W3C's WCAG 2.0. And it will probably cite the requirement of level AA as requirement for the web. So if you think of software as a service in terms of the web only, then the current and future requirements are quite clear in terms of expectation. Meeting it, of course, is to some it could be a challenge. Now, but like I said, for Microsoft, software as a service is not exclusive domain of the web. We deliver rich client applications through, for example, Office 365. Client application can appear on the local PC, for example, on demand. Not through virtualization. We actually can install Word or PowerPoint or Excel on the fly as you need it. Because we have the power of the cloud, and we're assuming you have a good network connection, it can be delivered to you on demand. And when you sign off, it'll disappear and uninstall on the PC. And also our software can also be licensed through our client applications, and be licensed through software as a service model. So when the service contract terminates, it disappears. So it's no longer, quote, a box product that it previously the good old model that we've come to know for a long time. In any case, if we're looking at the client application, the requirements for federal agencies also quite straightforward. We have Section 508, the current one, and the new one that we should expect. The requirements should be quite straightforward. Another thing that remains the same that I notice as often forgotten when we're talking about software as a service is content format. And the core value of, say, creating a word processing document, a spreadsheet, a presentation, is to share it with other people, right? I generally don't create PowerPoints for myself, and I think that's the case for everybody. Probably the same with Word documents and whatnot, because people have this notion of a software as a service as being exclusively a web-based thing. They naturally think of the content as like an HTML, something that they interact with, but it doesn't really matter. In the end, when you share the content, and there will be obligations when you share the content, whether it be a Word document or spreadsheet you want to share with a colleague or share with a wider community and inside your agency, outside your agency, you need to take into account for people with disabilities as part of the distribution and able to collaborate with you meaningfully. And that's where content format really matters. And we notice that a lot of people have forgotten that. And that is important. So, basic things as simple as putting alternative text on the image, like, say you HHS, and your logo needs to have a alt text. Well, can your content format support that? We're hearing less of those questions when we get to the cloud model, and I think we like to remind our customers and the agencies to remember that is important. We spoke a bit about what is, quote, I'll say more of the same, but something that we should not forget. Let's talk about what's different. So first, the cloud computing model allowed you some newfound flexibility, because that's more computing power. The storage is done on the cloud. The local device can be a lot cheaper, can be a lot simpler, can be more tailored. So, and that coupled with the whole model of bring your own device, which of course it's viewed slightly differently in a government agency, but in the enterprise space, that's become a real substantial trend. That brings you a couple of things. First, it gives you more flexibility. So if a particular type of device or particular type of apps on a particular platform works better for a particular disability, you can take advantage of that more easily because of the cloud. Now, of course, that comes with certain overheads in managing a diversified ecosystem of platforms, devices, and apps. So there's some opportunity there, and there's some cost there. So that's something that perhaps will encourage the enterprise customers to think about more about. And also with the cloud, it's easy to get your content from any connected device. But we can do more. For example, identity management and bringing your profile across the board. And I know Greg Van Hein probably talked about his project, GPII. So what we can already see today in Microsoft Windows 8 is that your preference and settings from one computer can be brought over simply by signing in. So if you sign into somebody else's computer on the Windows 8, your preference from high contrast to font size to how you want to use voice recognition, how do you want to use magnification or narrator, will automatically sync up with your preference. That's already there today. Obviously, we think more than that. We think with things like browser bookmarks, your preferred language, and many other things. But cloud allowed us to do that, make that more available to everybody. So you can just switch machines as you see fit. We're also doing a lot of things. This is where I find the most exciting, is what we call the natural user interface. And we call it NUI here in Microsoft. So this is something that we're working on very, very actively. You're already seeing a lot of results in the devices and services that we provide today. So what are we talking about in terms of natural user interface? Well, think of the way you used to use computer. For those who are old enough, like 20, 30 years ago, you have to know how to use the command code and whatnot to operate a computer. Well, that's actually not natural, right? And think about how you have to use the mouse to point things, to select things. Well, that's also not quite natural. What is natural is to think about how people use the computer in Star Trek, and in maybe Minority Report, and that sort of scenario, where where a person interact with information technology the same way you interact with another person. That brings about through a lot of different paradigms, and I like to just kind of contextualize it. First is the contextual awareness. Cloud computing allows us to understand the person's circumstance. For example, if you go into the meeting, say about a contractual dispute with a particular vendor in the federal agency, well, your computer and your phone and whatnot should understand that you're heading to that meeting. So if you say, ask the computer, pull up the presentation or pull up the contract related to that particular dispute, up to a dispute on my next meeting, that should be enough for the computer to provide you the right kind of information. And that is only possible through cloud computing, because in most cases your local device will not be smart enough to understand all that. Sensory input, we are opening up all new ways to interact with the computer. So things that we used to vision, through voice and sound, through touch, is coming through all the multi-touch devices that you have out there, and gestures. You see that through Microsoft Connect. We have more sensors and more capability to communicate with computing devices. Another thing is the language intelligence that we work on. We are able to understand spoken words as a command, and to interpret it to be something that the computer then can process. That kind of capability was not available before, and it really wasn't available until cloud computing is there. Environmental awareness, really understanding your location, your geolocation. GPS is commonly built in everywhere. Your device know where you're at. We have sensors to understand, for example, a lighting situation built into your phone and some laptops. We have light sensors. It automatically adjusts the contrast ratio on your screen. That kind of thing. Or even if it is too bright out there or too loud, it will automatically make the adjustment and switch to other modality. That kind of capability is also getting built in. We have more capability, another paradigm is anticipatory processing. Meaning we know before you even ask the questions what you're likely to need. And that is another power that we are able to bring about because of cloud computing. And another couple more things, augmented interaction. faulty, we can do optical character recognition on the fly. Obviously your phone is not powerful enough to do that. We can do language translation on the fly. We can recognize things on the fly, and all that is done because of the cloud. And then adaptive behavior, able for the device and the content to able to make changes and adjustment based on all the things that I talked about earlier. All those capabilities are now possible because of cloud computing. So this is just what we're seeing right now in the market is just the tip of a tidal wave of change. And there will be an explosion of opportunity and exciting ways for human to interact with a computer, and in a way that really advantages everybody and opens up the door for everyone. And these are the things that Microsoft are working on, and I believe that's in this context of how it helps cloud computing